You know, stepping on a rake can be really painful, but like all good teachers, pain can leave a lasting impression, and that certainly seems to have happened with PlayStation and requiring PSN logins for games on Steam. Since the introduction of this controversial decision with Helldivers 2, I have been strongly against it. For Helldivers 2, it was because of the unique circumstances surrounding it being disabled. I thought, just leave it disabled. But my criticism only increased as the situation developed, largely because of how confusing and seemingly unnecessary this whole thing was. In the wake of the Helldivers 2 situation, Ghost of Tsushima hit Steam and they only required the PSN for the online aspect. That seems pretty sensible and well in common with what we see with multiplayer games on Steam. But then they required it for a single-player game, God of War Ragnarok, and this seemed incredibly counterproductive, but also a clear form of self-sabotage. I predicted at the time that somebody at PlayStation at the executive level would really want to know why their award-winning game was selling less than its predecessor and also why it had such a lower score. At the time, I pointed out that the strategy of putting games on PC in the hopes of players wanting to maybe play the sequel and come to the console later, well, that would be harmed by doing something that is known to harm games and their reception on Steam. In other words, if you want to win people over to your team, this was not the way to do it. Well, it seems as though one of my ideas, almost verbatim, is being implemented by PlayStation, and I consider this a win for all parties involved. And the circumstances surrounding this happening are even more interesting than the fact that they did it. But before we get into that, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and check out the live show that followed this video. The first question that pops into my mind when looking at this situation is why? Why would you do this in the first place, and why suddenly reverse course? It seems like a huge, self-made mess that was ultimately not necessary. So first, why would Sony even do this to begin with? Well, it's a multi-layered strategy. The overlay and the trophies that they've implemented, I think, is a really easy way to get somebody into your ecosystem without actually buying your hardware. Seeing those pop-ups and trophies is a very subversive way to get some level of attachment to PlayStation games and this PlayStation account that they've created. And the overlay could also be related to their own launcher that they may want to put on PC. I still think pushing out their own launcher is a waste, but creating an overlay could certainly play a part of that strategy to do it long term. The other reason PlayStation wants folks doing this is just basic data analysis. Every company out there wants user data. What are folks playing? How long are they playing? Every day, week, and month? What percentage of them are rolling credits on a game? Is there a clear trend where people are just stopping playing something? This is all valuable intel that is easier to track and organize if you get people to make an account with your network. So, if there are all these business reasons and even consumer level reasons to make people create PSNs, why would they suddenly make it optional? You ripped off the Band-Aid with God of War Ragnarok, why not just keep going? Well, I think that was actually the catalyst for this change. If you take a quick peek at the two God of War games on Steam, you're going to notice something. First, God of War 2018 has an impressive 96% overall for the review score. If you spend any time on Steam looking at review scores, you know that after over 100,000 reviews, that is an impressive score. Then, if you look at God of War Ragnarok, it is an entire 11 points lower with an 85%. Now, there's nothing wrong with an 85%, but it is clearly not related to the game, as they both have identical Metacritic scores, and God of War Ragnarok has a user score on PlayStation that is a 96%. That's an exact match for 2018 on Steam. Then, to really complete the picture here, look at the Steam charts. God of War 2018 hit an all-time player peak when it launched of over 70,000 players, and Ragnarok pulled exactly half. Now, this doesn't give us an exact look at sales numbers, but it certainly indicates that the momentum and the excitement was not nearly as strong, which could be related to other factors. It is a sequel, but it is hard to deny that the required PSN login did not have a direct impact both on the user score as well as total sales and user engagement. When I looked at all of this last year, I said that if I was a high-level executive at Sony or just a shareholder, and if I was analyzing the success of the efforts to bring games to PC, I would want to know why a Game of the Year nominated, highly decorated brand ambassador game was looking so unimpressive on Steam. I would ask hard questions about return of investment, and this, I believe, is what happened. Higher-ups likely evaluated the PSN requirement due to its negative effect on God of War Ragnarok, and they considered an alternative approach. An approach, I might add, that came directly from one of my own suggestions. Back when the Helldivers debacle was taking place, there were a lot of suggestions and responses getting thrown around. And after it was reversed, I struggled to celebrate it because close to 200 regions were still left locked out of the game, and the whole situation seemed very avoidable. But in my video about the requirement being reversed, I threw out a suggestion. I called it a hybrid approach. Rather than require people make a PSN and connect it with Steam, just incentivize them to do it, make it optional. I apply similar logic to game design because you tend to get the best response when players or consumers do something because they want to, not because they are forced to. Do you really want people signing up for a PSN account and having their first experience of your game and your network be something that made them feel annoyed or something that they felt like they were forced to do, as opposed to being something that they wanted to do? Or do you want them to do it willingly, even rewarded for doing so? Well, it seems that PlayStation watched my video. I'm obviously joking, I don't think they did, but they are doing exactly what I suggested. Yesterday, PlayStation published a blog titled New In-Game Content Incentives Coming to PlayStation Games on PC, and here's what they had to say. Starting with tomorrow's release of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 for PC, we're working to add more benefits to playing with an account for PlayStation Network. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, coming in April, in addition to God of War Ragnarok and Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, will all soon be adding in-game content unlocks for PlayStation Network account users. And the best part about this comes right after. It says, an account for PlayStation Network will become optional for these titles on PC. Players who still opt in to sign for PlayStation Network account will also enjoy added benefits like trophies and friend management. See how easy that was? That wasn't hard. You made it optional and you gave incentives to do it. So people likely will say, oh hey, I'll get some cool stuff, maybe I'll sign up. Now, it is not optional yet, but in my video about this in the past, I said you could just throw cosmetics at people or just maybe some of the digital items that you commonly throw in with your deluxe editions, and that doesn't cost anything, and it would get you very valuable data and user engagement. They're doing things kind of like that. You get early unlock suits in Spider-Man 2, there's an outfit for Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, and there was one cool surprise. The red jacket from the Intergalactic trailer will be a skin for Ellie in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. Hopefully that's not a PC exclusive, that wouldn't be received all that well by the PlayStation fans, but there is still one snag left in this plan and the execution of this. The timing of this PSN policy change announcement coincided with something else, an 11th hour blog post and trailer for Spider-Man 2 on PC. Concern was growing that the PC port for Spider-Man 2 had been delayed since pre-order bonuses wouldn't be able to happen since nobody could pre-order it yet, and the minimum and the recommended PC specs had not yet been revealed. Well, this was likely due to the internal discussion that was taking place about this very thing, because Spider-Man 2 sadly and currently is still requiring a PSN. Even now, as I put this video together, it's around 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and folks are still reporting that they can't pre-order Spider-Man 2. And according to the same blog post, the optional part of making and connecting a PSN will actually come later. So obviously there are some logistical aspects of this that have to be ironed out. And I think the Spider-Man 2 situation was directly related to this. We've even recently reported about how Helldivers is suddenly unlocking certain regions, so it seems this is going to slowly roll out as a change. Now, the situation with Spider-Man 2 was either because they were trying to remove the requirement, or they're wanting to push out this hybrid where it's optional so that people can still buy it and get the rewards and not be region locked. And just like God of War Ragnarok, having this as a requirement is going to drive the score of Spider-Man 2 down along with its sales. Currently, the Spider-Man 1 Remastered port on Steam is enjoying the same high score as God of War 2018, a 96%, and the peak player count for Spider-Man 1 on Steam is 66,000, which is eerily close to the player peak of God of War 2018. So we're going to have an almost one-to-one experiment over the next few weeks to see if we get similar results for another Game of the Year nominated, highly decorated, commercially successful PlayStation game coming to Steam. I personally think they were actually trying to get this policy approved before Spider-Man 2 released, and the announcement about it being optional coming later I think is an attempt to soften the damage of requiring it once more. Players having their voices and preferences heard is a good thing, especially when the worst thing that happened was Helldivers 2 experienced a drop in its review score, which even now the game has a 94% if you check the score for the last 30 days on Steam. And I obviously like seeing something that I felt was an obvious solution get implemented. As opposed to being corporate and stubborn, it seems that PlayStation is willing to learn and adapt to player feedback on something that they could have easily dug their heels in on. It's easy for executives or higher-ups at companies to get professional egos about stuff like this and just say, you know what, screw the players and screw the consumer. That's obviously not happening. The bad news is that another big PlayStation game is about to go through the same threshing floor that other games already have. And hopefully, with The Last of Us Part 2 coming to PC in April, they can have this set up as optional by then, so we don't have to ride this merry-go-round one more time. Because, it's like I said, pain can be a great teacher because it leaves a lasting impression, and hopefully, this is the last rake that PlayStation decides to voluntarily step on. But those are just my thoughts, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment below. A lot of those comments get featured in the live stream that follows these videos. That will hit a card right here if you want to come hang out. There will also be a link to that live stream pinned below. And as always, if you like this content, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe.